Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have a very special book news video. It's been a long time since I've done one, but we've acquired some pieces of book news that I thought would be worthy of sharing on the channel. We've got book news from fantasy, we've got book news from media tie-in fiction like the Batman series, and from Star Wars and Star Trek, and we have some book announcements and cover reveals from other series, so I am ready to go on with the first story of the day. The first story of the day comes from Angry Robot Books, which is an independent publisher that produces fantasy and science fiction books in association with Random House. They use Random House for their printing and distribution, but the publisher itself is separate and independent. And this is the publisher that has been working on the Nightingale and the Falcon trilogy. The first two books in the trilogy had already previously come out. In 2023, we got The Judas Blossom, and in 2024, we got The Blood-Dimmed Tide. And the third book by the same author, Steven Arian, comes out in May of 2025, and we now have a cover for it and a title, and that is The Sorrow of the Sea. And this is a historical fiction fantasy series. I have read the first two books. I absolutely loved them. These are some of my favorite books of the year. I think that Steven Arian has jolted himself into being a top writer for me at the moment, and I am very much looking forward to everything he writes in the future. And I will be reading Sorrow of the Sea as soon as it comes out. Definitely this series, these two books are out in paperback. You should read them, and Sorrow of the Sea when it comes out. And so our second piece of news comes from Random House Worlds, and that is related to their Batman 1989 series. For those of you who don't know, they decided to publish some books in the Batman 1989 movie universe. So it's focusing on the Tim Burton stuff immediately after the 1989 movie, before Batman Returns. And so they released a book earlier this year, which is Batman Resurrection by John Jackson Miller. And at the end of the book, Random House announced, and also on the release day, Random House announced that there will be a sequel titled Batman Revolution, which will come out in the fall of 2025. We don't have a firm release date. I'm going to guess it's going to be October again. I feel like that's very in line for Random House to just release it in fall again. But in October, we'll see when the actual release date is, but that book is coming out next year, and I'm excited. I felt like this was a return to form for John Jackson Miller. I think this is one of his strongest books. It's also an excellent example of media tie-in fiction, and if you're a Batman fan, or even if you're not like me, you'll probably enjoy this book, even if you don't even like the 1989 universe. I think that John Jackson Miller just did a great job, and I'm very excited that he is getting a sequel in this universe. My next piece of news comes from Star Wars, also, an association with Random House Worlds, but this time coming from the Disney Lucasfilm Press. We finally got a cover, the cover art for Tessa Gratton's YA Star Wars novel titled Star Wars: The Acolyte, The Crystal Crown. This is a prequel for The Acolyte, featuring the characters of Yord and Jecki from the TV show The Acolyte. And The Acolyte itself has been canceled. The TV show has. It's only did one season. And instead, in the meantime, I should say, we are getting some prequel novels, and we have yet to see whether or not we will get sequel novels. I have gone on the record in the past, and I will say it again, that I believe it was the correct decision from Lucasfilm to cancel The Acolyte based off of the return on investment that the show was getting. I did not believe that there was any way for them to recoup a second season's worth of spending, even if they cut spending dramatically, because the audience wasn't there. However, I at the same time said that doing books for The Acolyte was the right move, because the book audience is much more forgiving typically. The book audience is smaller, and so you don't have to sell quite as many copies to make up your return on investment. And it's not going to get the mainstream attention that the TV show got, and so the books are probably not going to have the directed hate that the TV show had, which I didn't like the TV show at all myself. I think it had major problems, and I'm fine saying that. But I'm also recognizing Yeah, it got quite a lot of hate as well, so this is probably a smarter move on Lucasfilm's part. Even if I'm not excited for this book, I mean, I'll read it because I read all the Star Wars books that come out, but this is not particularly a Star Wars book I'm like giddy over or anything. However, I will read it, and if it's enjoyable, I'll say it's enjoyable, and if it's not, it's not. But I do think this was the right move from a business perspective for Lucasfilm, and if this prequel book is successful, I can perfectly see Lucasfilm letting the storytellers continue the story in book form instead, since they're not going to get TV show. So if you are an Acolyte fan and you want to see more Acolyte story, you want to see that story continued somewhere, then you should absolutely buy the books and talk about them with people. Our next story of the day comes from Star Trek over at Gallery Books. This is a very interesting development that it's not been officially announced by the author, as far as I can tell, as recording this, or even anywhere else. However, when you look up the Gallery Books Simon & Schuster page, there is a page for a new Strange New Worlds book that was not previously on the schedule. That title for the book is Star Trek Strange New Worlds Ring of Fire, and it appears to be written by David Mack, who longtime Star Trek readers are going to know him and his massive bibliography. Now, this would be the third Star Trek Strange New Worlds novel in a row, because book one came out last year, but we've had books in between that. But book two for Strange New Worlds, Asylum, came out this year, and then the next book to come out after Asylum is a Strange New Worlds novel titled Towards the Night by James Swallow. And after that would be Ring of Fire. And as far as we know, there's no books in between. And I would doubt, based off of knowing how many books Gallery presents a year, I'm guessing that there are no books in between, which would mean that that's 3 Strange New Worlds books and none of the other series get books. Now, perhaps this is because the Strange New Worlds books are selling really well, and that they want to stick with what's selling well, which I get. Perhaps this is Gallery saying, hey, that's the show that's on right now. Let's focus on the show that's on right now. I understand that. Or perhaps this is a time to let the other series breathe, so that when they do return to the other series, that the fan base will be salivating and ready for those books. I don't think that's a smart move if that is the case, because I feel like Voyager fans have been salivating for years because we still haven't gotten more Voyager books. I feel that Picard fans who want a continuation of the Picard series are salivating for more books there. And I believe that fans of the other series, like the original series and Next Generation and whatnot, all very much want to see more books happen. So I don't know why Gallery is releasing a bunch of Strange New Worlds books in a row, but I'm very glad that we're still getting Star Trek books and getting published, and David Mack has a very good track record. It's interesting that previously we've had, book one was an event book. The High Country was a big, massive story. It was a longer book. And then the book that came out earlier this year, Asylum, is a much quieter, smaller, more introspective Star Trek story. So I'm curious to see what Towards the Night are, and what by James Swallow, and also Ring of Fire. If I had to guess, Towards the Night is going to be this thriller book that has a lot more action and quick-paced storytelling, whereas Ring of Fire is going to be another epic, huge book. Maybe not in terms of page count, but certainly in terms of what's happening on the page by David Mack. So I'm very interested and excited even to read these books, even if Strange New Worlds is not my particular thing. The final piece of news today I have is from a self-published author. This comes from Shami Stovall. Shami just released her first book in her Time-Marked Warlock series with Time-Marked Warlock, and the second book, Chronos Warlock, just recently released, and she just revealed the cover. And I find these covers by Chris McGrath so interesting, so engaging. I loved reading Time-Marked Warlock. In fact, I just had an interview with Shami earlier this week, so you should go check that out. My review of this book will be up soon, but Chronos Warlock, book 2, comes out just came out, and so it's already out, so you can get both books, and book 3 is expected to release very soon. And so I think that Chris McGrath, who has done the Dresden Files and Mistborn and all these other series, continues to knock it out of the park with his illustrations, and I think that Shami has started something really precious here. So I am very much looking forward to that book. So those are the book news that I'm going to cover in this video. There are certainly other book news that I could have covered, but these were the ones that were most interesting to me, and hopefully you will find them interesting, and hopefully you will find new books to read from this. If you've heard of any of these, what do you think? What are you most intrigued by? Are you interested in the Star Wars or the Star Trek or the fantasy or the sci-fi? What are you most interested in this list? And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.